Hello, my friends, and welcome to Speaking About Anime. This week we are going to be talking about Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. Now, I am a relatively new fan to this particular anime. This one was suggested to me by Brightest Day, I think it was first. He was one that kind of had mentioned this to me. In fact, we were supposed to do a stream together on this last week, but I had problems while I was on the truck, thanks to the horrific state of Wyoming, which, if you never go to Wyoming, you're a very lucky person because it's a horrible place, just full of wind and snow and trouble. Anyway, so I was blocked, couldn't get home. So would like to say hello to everybody in the chat. Hello, Lady Mist, Curtis YZ, brother, good to see you. And see, I think that's everybody in here so far. Said there's more in here, but those are the only two people talking. So I'm glad you guys are here. This is just an amazing anime. It really is, and I'm really glad they brought my attention to it. The only problem with this anime is that it's hard to find. Like, if you want to stream this online, good luck. You've got to go find one of those odd off the wall source spots, because I couldn't find it on any of the regular ones, not Crunchyroll, not Funimation. I mean, none of them are showing this. So I actually had to go and buy the Blu-ray copy, and I'm glad I did because I want to keep this. And I bought this having never seen it before. I had seen the original, and I believe I've already done a live stream on the original before, and the original is good, but this one is way better. This one is more polished. This one looks so much better. The animation is a lot better. The original one, the original Vampire Hunter D, it's very 80s. The animation, the especially the anime style is very 80s, and it has not aged overly well. I rewatched it this week again and rewatched Bloodlust in preparation for doing this. Um, and let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I'm using a different mic today. I was having trouble where my other mic seems to pick me up and then it doesn't. So I hope you guys can hear me okay. And if this sounds bad, let me know so that I will not use it again. But this is the gaming mic that I use when I'm playing games with my brothers. So Curtis says, I think my friend told me about this anime years ago and went through a ton of animes at that time. So yeah, it's like I said, I probably first watched this a couple months ago, then rewatched it again this week. Um, oh, good, good. I'm glad it sounds good. But it's just such a good. The original story suffers, or the original film suffers kind of from a lack of information. Like, you don't feel like you're getting all the information you need. I mean, it's still a great story, and it's a good anime, but you kind of feel like you're missing a bunch of stuff. And I am not deep into the lore of Vampire Hunter D. After having bought this, I want to find out more and get more involved. But seriously, this is one that you could go buy and you will not feel bad. It is beautiful. The way it is animated, the vocal acting on it is really good. The only character I felt like they didn't do very well in this one is his left hand. Which, if you don't know, his left hand has a face in it, and it's like a demon that's in his hand, or he calls it a parasite. But so basically the background of this story, and as I say, this is just going from the films. I have not read the novels or the graphic novels or any of that stuff. So you're going to get it the same way I got it when I watched these originally. So some of this I had to fill in from my own imagination because they don't really get into a lot of specifics when they're talking about this. I will give you a parental warning. This movie is rated R. It is a rated R cartoon. Um, and there's really not, I mean, it's more for the violent aspects of it. It is fairly graphic in some areas, but not bad. But just so you're aware, this is probably not one that you'd sit down and watch with your kids. but that is definitely a great one for adult. Now, the thing that I loved about this one is it there is in the background there's a vampire slash human love story that's going on, but it is very low key. It does not play a huge part in the film, but it is there. Um, so you will be able to see that, and it's things like this that make me feel like, because I like Twilight. I don't know if anybody. I'm sure that most people just went, no, the books. I like the Twilight books. The films are horrendous. Every copy should be found and burned and never seen in waking life again, only in people's nightmares. So, and Lady Miss just put this up. So this must be a way that you can go and find this film and watch it without having purchased it. So, thank you, Lady Miss, for putting that up there. That is great information. So that's in the chat if you want to go copy that and go look for it after this stream. Because trust me, if you like anime at all, and if you like vampire stories, which I absolutely do, um, it is. I am kind of a vampire fanatic, and I always have been since I was a kid. I used to read vampire books when I was a kid. I just it is one of those genres that I just absolutely love. Anything to do with vampire. Okay, not anything, because there's been some hit and misses with vampire stuff, but most of the time, if it has vampires in it, yeah, I'm there. So yeah, and oh, you would like the books. Thank heavens, she almost scared me with this. Yeah, I did a live stream on Twilight one time, and I think people were like, "Oh no!" But like I said, it's the books. The books are good. The movies are horrendous, so bad. The worst two human beings on Earth to play the main characters. The supporting cast was actually not that bad, but but oh, and I mean, if you mess up the leads, I mean, why even make the film? I'm really so. But yes, and welcome, Chris. Thanks for popping in. Glad to see you. Um, I just this so this story basically Vampire Hunter D, and that's his name, D. That's all they really call him. He's called a Dumpier, which, as you later find out, is half vampire and half human. So he had one of each in his family, and he comes to find out, I think, that you find out through this story, through a vision that he ends up having, that it was his mother that was a human and his father who was a vampire. And the other kind of really cool thing that you find out from the first one is he is actually the son of one of the original progenitors of the vampire race. Now, the backstory that I got as I was going through these films is that vampires have basically there's kind of illusions to the fact that they came from space, like they were not originally on Earth. But there's also some kind of statements that would make you think, yeah, they were. But basically, what's happened is that this takes place in the far distant future. So we're talking like 10 millennia from now. So it is very far into our future. The vampires took over and basically built a world spanning empire. But the humans eventually have kind of risen up and have fought back, and the vampires are edging towards extinction. They're being hunted, and they're being hunted by bounty hunters and other groups in this story. Um, Let me see if I can pull up because seriously no, hit that wrong. The artwork and the animation is just it reminds me very much of Cowboy Bebop. If you like the animation of Cowboy Bebop, you will really like the animation for this. It is very similar. One of the interesting things about this was an anime that was originally targeted at Americans. It was dubbed in English originally, and then was later translated and dubbed into Japanese. So this was kind of a Japanese anime that was really made for the American market, and then later went back, and it was well received. I think it said it was released originally in 12 theaters. I'm like, well, that's just sad. This is one of those films that I wish I could go find theater that would play this on a big screen, because this would be just an epically good thing to see in the big screen. I mean, there's not a I would literally eat my weight in popcorn watching this. It's just so great. Let me see if I can pull up a picture here of and run through some of the just kind of the basic artwork. Let me see if I can share my screen with you. See. I apologize. I'm terrible at doing this while I'm on the stream itself. So, oh, well, that's about as small as it can get. There we go. Let's make me as tiny as humanly possible. So that's just one image from this film. This is where Vampire Hunter D has actually kind of entered in and this isn't even as good as it actually is. This is kind of, he's not in very good definition here, but this is where he meets some of the other cast in the film, but I mean, it looks like this throughout much of this. Let me see if I can pull up some more pictures, because they are just fantastic overall. The artwork is, like I said, it is just tremendous. And it is something that really drew me into this film and made me like it even more. Great. That's about as small as can possibly be made. Okay, so that's not working. Anyway, so I would suggest going to Google. If you're interested in this film, go to Google and look up Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust, and then images, and just scroll through the images if you've not seen this. And you will just be like, that's one of the coolest freaking looking animes ever. I mean, D's character, in the first one, he has kind of a blue tint to his outfit. And in the second one, he is jet black, just jet black, and it looks fantastic. He has a sword on over his shoulder that is almost the full length of his body. It is like huge. It is like a claymore sized sword. But it is just, and I wish that I could pull these up better. The girl that he is interested in this, I mean, the way she is animated is just just beautiful in like Elizabethan kind of dress. And it is just the like the clothing and stuff. You could tell they took so much time and effort when they were creating these characters to make them look a certain way, and it is it is awesome. I don't know. I'm kind of geeking out here on you guys. I apologize. Um, yeah, yeah, exactly. So I mean, but this seriously, this probably would have been huge because it came out in 1997, from what I could find. That's when it was originally released, and it should have. I mean, it should have went nationwide. It should have been in every theater that it could get put in. Every once in a while, I don't know if your theaters around where you are do it, but they'll like bring in Studio Ghibli films and re-show them during the year, and you can take your kids and go see them in the big theater. I wish they would start doing that with more anime films, not just Studio Ghibli stuff, although I love Studio Ghibli and I love everything that they do, almost without fail. In fact, I've yet to see one that I was just like, no. So, but anyway, so this story, let me get back into the story, and I will try not to spoil too much for you here, while still telling you what this is about. So we have D, who's the vampire hunter, and how this film initially starts out is a girl is kidnapped, and her name is Charlotte, I believe, if I remember right, if I'm saying that right. And so we see her sleeping in her bed. The wind starts to flap. Her window lock opens up of its own accord. The windows burst open, and then we see a vampire hanging outside her window. And then you see it rush in towards her and grabs her, and she disappears. And so, I mean, as an opening sequence, it immediately grabs you, and you're just like, okay, this is going to be good. And like I said, the animation is so beautiful that you're kind of enthralled. At least I was. Um, and I don't think that's just because I'm a vampire fanatic. I mean, if I had to pick a monster to be, it would really be, if somebody said, Brian, we're going to make you a monster, and what do you want to be? I'd be like, can you make me a werewolf? which isn't even really a thing. But I mean, it would really be a toss up. But I'd probably lean more towards the vampire because apparently I'd like sucking blood. I don't know. But I just always have been fascinated with vampires ever since I saw the old Dracula films, the Bela Lugosi films and stuff like that. So that, I mean, that really got me into vampires. There's something powerful and mystical and amazing about vampire. Used to bother my friends in high school because I remember dragging one of my buddies to go see Bram Stoker's Dracula in the theater, and he was not into it. He did not find that good, and I'm just like, but it's Gary Oldman and it's Dracula. It's awesome. That was a good film. I liked that film. Um, Dracula 2000, which I thought was all right. I mean, there's just I, I don't know. I love them, and nobody does vampires. It seems like as well recently as animes do them. I mean, animes really kind of hit the vampire thing, and they really seem to do it right. Even when they're doing it comedically, they still seem to do it right. Another one of my favorite vampire animes is Rosario and a Vampire, which is more of a comical harem style high school thing, but and which is actually what I'm going to be doing my live stream on next week. So if you guys are interested in that, but it is very different from this. This is a very adult, very dramatic, very intense storyline. So this girl is abducted, and vampire hunter D, or D, is brought in to track her down, and is basically told, we want you to bring her home one way or the other. We want her home. If she's a vampire, bring her home dead. Basically, like, we want her back. And if she's become a vampire, kill her in the most humane way possible, and then bring her body home to us to bury. They are that against vampires. I mean, the in the first film, girl gets bitten and is basically ostracized from her village because she's even been bitten, and they're all freaked out and afraid. There's so and then we as part of this, there's another group that gets hired also by the brother of Charlotte, um, and he's kind of a I don't know, he's very protective, almost kind of in a creepy way about his sister. I'm just like, you're treating her more like she's your mate than your I mean, there's just kind of a strange vibe that I got from the brother and stuff. And I think it's just the fact that he loves his sister and stuff like that. But the way it comes off, you're just like, okay, I'm not sure if that's all right. Um, so and what we and they end up, the other group of bounty hunters is called the Marcus brothers, and it's a crew run by Borgarf. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. And then Nolt is the other, and then Kyle, Grove, and Leah. And Leah plays quite a bit more of a prominent role than the others, but the others are involved, and they are in my head while I was watching this. I could see this in live action. Just terrified actually that somebody might buy the rights to this and totally screw this up, because I would not want this to be made today unless me or somebody I trusted was actually involved in the process, because they just mess this all up, and it would end up being all about Leah, and Vampire Hunter D would become basically a side character in his own film, which I don't want. But anyway, these bounty hunters, they're in this tank looking thing, and it's got crosses all over it. Like the front of it's this big metal cross, and then the backside, the lights kick on at one point, and they're in the shape of crosses. And I mean, it is really cool. And like I said, and the animation is beautiful. That picture I was showing you before of Vampire Hunter D on the hill with his cape spread out. He crests the top of this hill, and and as he crests the top of the hill, his cape fans out, and that's what you see there. And the bounty hunters are down below him watching him as he's climbing the hill, because they're basically in competition, because the Charlotte's father has offered like a bounty of 10 million to bring her home. Vampire Hunter D is like, yeah, no, I'll do it for 20. He's like, no, that's not enough, because he knows how hard this is going to be, because she's been abducted by Meyer Link, which he is a very powerful vampire. And and he's a nobleman, which the noblemen are basically the most powerful of all the vampires. So as he's going through this, he's like, he's gonna walk away, and the father's like, fine, I'll double the amount. And he's like, okay, and then he takes it. And I love how he really doesn't talk a lot. He's one of those kind of a stoic, soft spoken kind of characters that you get, that is just like, he's all the better for the fact that he doesn't have a lot of dialogue. His actions really say more about what's happening with him than anything else, which is just, and it makes him more of a character that draws you in, and you just end up almost wanting him to talk more, but being kind of glad at the same time. Like I said, I don't know. It's just, he's one of those strong males. In fact, it's brought up in the film that this kid said, and I think it's in the first film, that he says, there's two types of men. There's those who talk a lot, or there's two types of quiet men. Sorry, I'm messing up this quote terribly, and this is just me trying to remember it. But there's two types of men, quiet men: those who don't say much because they don't have much to say, or those who don't say much because they've seen too much, or they've seen too much tragedy and they just don't want to talk about it. Talking means they could end up in a subject they don't want to be in. So that is kind of his character, but it makes him mysterious, and you just it makes him that much more compelling, really, for the lack of him talking. Anyway, so there's this whole scene, and basically it's a chase scene throughout this movie. There's a carriage that is just freaking awesome. It's got these black horses with red eyes, and they're basically vampire horses. At one point you could see their teeth, and it is just this, and it's this creepy metal black carriage that he is whisking her away. And so he's got the bounty hunters, the Marcus brothers, and then he's got D all hunting him to try and get this girl back. And so they go through different stages, and the bounty hunters, there's one guy that has these blades that flip out, and it's basically, they become teas, and he spins them in his hands. And they're just, it is awesome. Then there's this huge bounty hunter guy who's got like a white cross painted on his face. And he's this great big guy. And he's basically got like a huge hammer with a spiked end on one end of it. And that's let me see if I can remember which. It's Grove. No, pardon me. Nolt. That's Nolt. That character. The Blade Master is Kyle, and then they have a psychic character, which he looks really sickly and bony and stuff. You're trying to figure out this whole time, like, why do they have this walking skeleton on their crew? But he's basically a psychic, and you find out what he can do later on in the film, and I'm not going to spoil that because it is really cool. Oh, hail Kamikaze! Thanks for popping in. But so, I mean, this goes through a chase, and basically they end up in an area where it's basically an area full of monsters, and I can't remember exactly what it's called. Um, I think it's called the Bengay. Um, no, that's not it either. Sorry, I'm looking to see if I can find where I wrote that down. Um, yeah, it's not on there. So it's basically an area where it's full of monsters, and the carriage goes to this area to be protected or to basically rest while they protect him while he's sleeping, and stuff. And Vampire Hunter D has to go into this area and basically try and work out a deal to get past. And it's run by this crazy old dude on a unicycle. And he's just like this creepy looking golem kind of character. Um, and all around him in this hall are these monsters and everything. And then that's when the psychic shows up and does his thing, which is basically the only reason that D doesn't have to fight his way, not totally, out of this area. Um, and it's just so cool. Well, it comes to find out that they're chasing, and there's these three monsters that are protectors of the carriage and that go with them from the monster area. God, I wish I could remember what that was called. Um, but they're basically, and then the one lady, she can change her shape based on whatever material she's touching. So she ends up touching the tank and then like oozing into it like the Terminator and shooting spikes through the tank. It is crazy cool how it's done. And then later on she ends up becoming like trees, and I mean she's just this vicious, wicked bodyguard for Meyer basically and Charlotte as they're running away. Because come to find out, Charlotte wanted to be kidnapped. She was part of this whole thing. She loves Meyer, which is like kind of a taboo thing. I mean, it's absolutely taboo on the human side, and the vampires. I mean, it's they have dalliances with humans, which is how we ended up with D in the first place, or any of the Dunpeels or Dunpeers. They pronounce it two different ways in the film. So, but it is just, so they're going through this chase scene. They've also got like a bodyguard character who dwells in the shadows. He kills people by stabbing their shadow. It is, I mean, the thought and the stuff that went into this film is just, there's a lot of unique stuff. There's a lot of like tropish stuff, but like it all comes at you from a very new and interesting perspective, and the bounty hunters and what they have to go through. Um, and like I said, and the whole time, whenever D's by himself, you hear his left hand speaking to him, because like I said, it has a face in it. And at different points it actually helps him by absorbing, like sucking in spells and helping him get, but it's kind of like he has this obnoxious character with him who's always kind of ragging on him, and it's his own hand. So, I mean, it's just kind of a very unique and interesting way of adding a character in to be the counterpoint to the main character who does not really talk a whole lot. So and like I said, that's my only problem with this particular anime is the vocal actor that they got to do the hand character. I didn't feel like he really fit the voice. The voice in the original film is different than how they portray it in Bloodlust, and I felt like the one in the original film actually did a little bit better job and has a darker, deeper voice and kind of a metallic twang to his voice that's you can tell it's not normal or not average. It's like they've altered his voice a little bit, and in this one it's kind of a nasally, obnoxious character. But it's basically some of the comic relief for this film is his own hand talking to him and kind of like giving him crap and stuff, as he's going through this chase and doing all these things. Anyway, they end up going through all this place because they're basically going to an area where they can get away from humanity. They want to leave, and they're going to the stars, because I mean the vampires were extremely technologically advanced in in this civilization that has now fallen. I mean, right now it's almost as if they're kind of in a transition period between an apocalyptic war and the humans rising to to finish taking power. Um, and it gives illusions to the ancient war that the vampires fought to take over and become the rulers of Earth. Um, so like I said, I wish there was more history given in the film, than a little bit more background to what is happening in this, because you kind of need it. You can kind of fill it in yourself if you want to, but like then you end up with head canon, which if they ever come back and like do backstories on this, you're gonna be like, well, that's not what I thought. And it's kind of a dangerous road to leave that much stuff open to interpretation. So I'm hoping to go back and get into the novels and find out more about the backstory, the history behind this. Hail, Martin. How are you doing? Thanks for popping in. Oh, that just. Sorry, I just had something try and take over my screen here. It's always good when your computer does weird stuff in the middle of a live stream, right? I mean, come on. That's the best time for that to happen. Um, so now I can't see anybody's chat. So I apologize if you guys are talking and I can't see you any longer. But anyway, I'm not going to tell you the end of this film. But at the end of this film, we get introduced to another character named Camilla. She is closest thing. One of my favorite in fact, my favorite animated villain of all time is um, Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, the Disney film. She is by far one of the coolest and most awesome uh, bad guys of all time. One of my favorite Disney villains of all time. And she has that feel about her. When Camilla gets introduced, she's not in there very long and stuff like that, but oh, holy crap, when she comes in, it is just, she's got this elegant, dark kind of evil thing going on, and the story just gets really interesting at that point. Hail, Jeff B, thanks for popping in. And it or coming in. I gotta stop saying popping in, because yeah, that's not a good term for that. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. You know what I mean. But yeah, it is. I cannot recommend this one enough. If you like vampire films at all, is just is so good. Such a well done film. And like I said, it leaves a lot of things to open interpretation. So you can come up. In fact, I find myself, in fact, after I watched this week, that's what I kept doing. I kept like writing the backstory in my head. I'm like, all right, maybe this is how that, because they allude to the fact that like that these vampires may have come from space, and that the ones that are left are actually trying to leave and go back to space, to just basically they've given up on trying to maintain or keep the earth from the humans are basically one. Yeah. Don't pop. Everybody pops, of course. I just drink pop, but you know, sorry, lady Mrs. giving me crap about saying pop again. So it just seriously, that you will not regret. Like I said, I bought this sight unseen based on a recommendation from somebody I trust about anime, and I was not disappointed. I was able to go back and find this, or find the original. In fact, I found the original today on YouTube. Somebody had posted it on YouTube, and just I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Other people can post whole movies on YouTube and nothing happens to them. But if I show a clip, I get taken down. Like I get, I mean, everybody in the world piles on top of me with copyright claims. You can't use my film. How dare you? And so yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's not. Uh, I people manage to do things on YouTube that I don't get to do, and I haven't figured that out yet. They must know somebody, or I don't know, have naked pictures of the head of YouTube or something. I don't know, but anyway, so this story ends in a very cool and satisfying way, not in the way that you would expect. And once they actually get to the castle where Camilla is and stuff, I mean, things get freaky, and it just makes it that much better. Like I said, the ending really does. It leaves you satisfied. You will not be like, "What the hell?" Um, so, I mean, I was very grateful because there's so many movies out there nowadays. Well, to be honest, most of the movies coming out of Hollywood right now, they're bad from start to finish. It's we're starting to get some better stuff, but I mean, usually it is just so bad that like the ending is just the next worst part of it's like bad, horrific ending, and in this you don't get that. You actually feel like you um you know that something bad did not happen to you. Sorry, I missed this comment. Watch this with my wife. Her reactions to things were hilarious. She is not well, that this is rated R, so she probably didn't realize that. Otherwise, she'd probably punched you in the throat. Um, but yes, and yes. So, I mean, if Lady Miss recommends it, then it's got to be good because she hasn't led me astray yet. I just have a hard time with the animes that she suggests that are subtitled because I'm a slow reader, I guess. I don't know. And she has put a link up in the chat for a way you can go find this and watch it without actually purchasing it. I just purchased it because I love everything vampire. So, um, but yeah, yeah, I don't know. I found it there this morning and it was still up. So, I mean, the entire first film is on YouTube. If you want to go watch the original Vampire Hunter D, just hit Vampire Hunter D and go look on YouTube and you'll find it says whole movie. And I'm just like, oh, okay. But like I said, yeah, that's it almost is a good thing, Chris, because I mean it gives everybody a chance to go watch this fantastic freaking film. The original, which was okay, it's good, and then you get to Bloodlust, and it is just wow, just that much better. Which is weird because often with a second or third film, I mean, you don't get that with this one. It absolutely beats the first one hands down. Both stories are great, but the animation and everything is just that much better. I mean, and the storyline it kind of is more streamlined. It makes a little bit more sense than the first one did. Um, the girl in the first one bothers me because her forehead is like huge. It's like half her face, and it's more like 2/3 of her. I'm like, what girl has a forehead that's that big? Bald girls don't have foreheads that are that big, and then that really distracted me through that most of that film. Everything vampire for movies. Yeah, we already talked about. Yeah, yeah, Kamikaze. We already did talk about Twilight. Yeah, no, those movies are terrible. The books are good. The movies, no, no. Um, but yeah, no, mm. But I mean, I actually, if you read the books behind Twilight, the story is actually really good. But like how they portray it in the film, and I mean, and some of it they followed the books, and some of it they didn't. But it's just like the characters come off completely different than they do in the films. I mean, like I said, and the biggest problem in the films is the two people that played the leads. They're you've got the plank of wood and the moron. I mean, who doesn't look like anything like what Edward is described at is anyway. I could go off on Twilight and how bad those movies are. It, yeah, just for literally for hours. So yes, and they did. I mean, because I think the first one was in 83 or something like the 80s, early 80s, and then the second one. takes was in 1997 is what I was able to find this morning. So yeah, the animation improves vastly, but I mean the story is still good and it is still worth a watch. I mean the character of Vampire Hunter D. I wish that they were making more. I wish they were making a series based on these films because, especially to go back and kind of start the story from the beginning, even if they just did that real do a prequel through the first half of the season and then kind of jump forward to where Vampire Hunter D is in the films, something. But I mean, there's seriously there's like 10,000 years of stories that they could play with in this world, because that I mean one of the vampires is 10,000 years old. The original noble in the first film is 10,000 years old. So, I mean, he's been around for a while. So there's a lot of stories there. And it says into the far distant future. So we're talking millennia in front. So, yes, Jeff B., you will not be sad that you did. And if you are, you can send me a thing on Twitter being like, you suck. But I loved it. I love this film. I love the bounty hunters. The bounty hunters are just they're just badass. That's the only way to describe them. And the girl bounty hunter, she plays kind of a more predominant role, but just because she's kind of impatient. Her family was killed by vampires. She has a serious grudge against all vampires, and but I liked her character. Like she gets injured, she there's a real story arc there, and like I say, towards the ending is just not what you would expect, and you think one thing's happening, and then you find out it's something else, and you're just like, oh, cool. I mean, so it just really is worth a watch. I hope you guys take some time this week to go watch it, go buy it, support this, because it is just it's everything vampire, really, for the most part. For the most part, I will caveat that is great. Even the old films, like I don't know if you guys remember the old comedy film Vampire Dead and or Dracula, I think Dead and Loving It was a Mel Brooks film. Um, and Love at First Dracula, like Love at First Bite. Can't remember the guy's name that was in that, but he did a lot of spoof films back in the 80s and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. That describes a lot of actresses in Hollywood these days. Like Zendaya, she has like one facial expression. Actually, I can't even do her facial expression because it looks like she's always got crap under her nose, like there's a bad smell. Like I mean, yeah, like the actresses are not what they once were. But no, I'm talking about Kristen Stewart. Yeah. Wow. And after Twilight, boy, did she go off the rails. She liked men. Now she's a lesbian. Of course, if I dated Robert Pattinson, I wouldn't date Robert Pattinson because I'm a dude, but you know what I'm saying here. I mean, he's probably. I mean, if I was gay, he'd probably make me like women. He's gonna put you off, whatever you are. I mean, he's just. I don't like Robert Pattinson. I haven't seen the new Batman because he's it. I hear it's okay, but I don't like him, and I never really had. Um, so all the way back to when he was in Harry Potter, where he got his first start, I'm just like, no, no. He was terrible in that, and he's been terrible ever since. I know some people are like, well, he got better, and I'm like, no, he didn't. Anyway, yeah, no, and I'm getting to that point, lady mist. I spend most of my time just watching anime now. Um, I've never actually seen Nosferatu. I probably should. I probably should. At 48 years old, you would think, really, Brian? I mean, that's just sad. I've seen it in the video, back in the day when we had video stores and we'd go in there and I'd see it and I just like that. This looks weird. So I didn't understand what it was. So I never rented it, but I guess that's my fault. Anyway, thank you guys for being here today. This has been a lot of fun. And like I said, next week we will be talking Rosario and a Vampire, much more lighthearted anime, a lot more fun. And seriously, it is one of my favorite animes just because the characters are so funny and outrageous, and the guy just it reminds me of Monster Musume, where Everyday Life with Monster Girls. If you've ever seen that one, it is just it's fun. Why is everybody messing with me about the subtitles thing? That's just mean, you guys. I really do need to get better at watching them. But most of the time, when I'm uh, getting into new animes for the first time, I'm on the road in the truck and I'm not watching them. I'm listening to them, and then I go back and watch them later because I've just gotten to the point where I can't stand listening to music or radio or anything. Like I just went through the new updated version of Lord of the Rings this week with Andy Serkis doing the voice, and it is so good, so much better than the original ones that had. I can't even think of the guy's name, but he could basically put you into a coma just so fast, like you'd be like, and he could make the most exciting part of Lord of the Rings sound like I I I mean, seriously, he could put an insomniac to sleep. The guy was like, he reminds me. You guys probably don't, you can't identify with this, but when I was growing up, my parents had these uh, tapes of the Bible when I was growing up, and then they would listen to them. And the guy that used to read the old versions of the Bible was just terrible. Seriously, he could put you into coma within 5 minutes of starting to listen to the tapes, and that's what the guy was. Robert Ingles, I think was his name. I'm sure he's a great guy, just a terrible reader for Lord of the Rings. Andy Serkis does so much better. I am looking forward to buying the Two Towers and Return of the King with him doing the vocal work on it. I was talking to Loki about this 2 weeks ago, and seriously, if you like Lord of the Rings and like audiobooks, get the new versions. They're very good, worth the money. Um, anyway, thanks for being here, and we will see you next week at the same time, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard, which is where I'm at, and we will be talking Rosarian, a vampire. So, anyway, thanks for being here, guys, and we will talk to you all next week. Bye now. I guess we're going to stay on forever because it's not letting me out. I guess this is the stream that never ends.